Yeah, I think, can you just, we'll be all quiet. Can Mandar or Zunaid just put in the chat box we are live, and that moment, Anushka can start and then Ketan.
Yes.
Okay? ठीक है. I'm just unmuting.
Hello, I am Anushka Pandre, pursuing my bachelor's in business administration from MIT and also a change maker at Sustain and Save. A very good evening to everyone present today and welcome to another DIY session. We are delighted to have with us Mr. Ketan Chaturmutha, a design educator. And today we'll be learning what is design thinking, how design thinking helps to innovate, the knowledge nature beholds, and how nature inspires to innovate. I am sure this session is going to be super useful for each one of us because design is the most important and powerful sources in our lives, whether we believe it and can also be inspiring, empowering, and enlightening. Good design is so much more than creating a good product. Design influences what we think, the way we feel, and the decisions we make. Mr. Ketan Chaturmutha is a design educator with more than 10 years of experience in the field of industrial design and user experience design. He graduated from Savitribai Phule, Pune University and finished his master's degree in design from Indian Institute of Design, Guwahati. He has worked with companies like Philips Displays, Videocon India, Whirlpool India, Old India, and Castle Advanced Technologies and Systems Private Limited. As an educator and mentor, he has spent more than 6 years in building industrial professionals and college students in the field of product design and furniture design. He has also been passionately involved in researching how nature works and morphing the natural systems to develop innovative ideas. We welcome all of you for our session to enlighten your knowledge on nature inspired thinking, design, and innovation. Our organization, Sustain and Save, is a one stop solution on sustainability created by Indians for the world. We at Sustain and Save believe in creating corporate impact by bridging the gap and connecting the green products and services and companies in India across the world. We believe to move towards reverse logistics, focusing on ways to be used in a better way. Started on 22nd April, this Earth Day, by the Shroff sisters Pranati and Ankita, who are both entrepreneurs and hold their diploma from Swedish Institute in Responsible Leadership and Sustainable Businesses. Today, we have a team of 400 plus change makers from all across the world. In less than 6 months, we have collaborated with 50 plus companies and government organizations through various e-panel discussions and awareness programs. Our sole motto is to spread awareness and work together as a team and make our environment sustainable for the coming future. With this, I'd like to hand over the session to Ketan sir.
Thank you so much, Anushka. Hello, guys. Good evening to everyone. So here I am, Ketan Chaturmutha. I would like to put some light on design thinking with you guys. So when we start with I would especially start with, the situation outside, what we have right now, the current situation where everything has turned upside down. That is how we look at things right now. And we are trying to make it better. We are trying to turn that upside down into a correct one. So there's a try what is going on from our side as humans. So we as humans, we have been adapting to current situations always, like whatever the situations have come across us, we have been trying to adapt to those things. We have been trying to adapt as well as transform too. So our systems have been always been evolving. So, like especially, so when I want to talk about design, it is like everyone designs. The teacher who is arranging a meeting, the family who is planning a wedding, the team who is building a satellite. So whatever we do through this, our adaptation and evolving things, we design things. And like results differ, the goals also differ, the scale differ, but they all design. they all follow a process. So this design is not just like doing thing. It is a systematic way of doing thing. It's a process. You know? So whenever we talk about this execution, how do we execute? We start from thinking and then we go to the execution. And there's a process which is to be followed. So this process, we call it as design thinking. So I would just like to give you a small example. Like in our day-to-day life, we do step-by-step activity. So there are a lot many things what we do in our day-to-day life. And if you describe them step by step, those activity in a systematic manner, you will understand, those things have been evolved with time. So very simple example of designing a tea. So everyone has a different kind of a tea. The way of making that tea is different for everyone, and they have designed their own tea. So the process, what you define for yourself, or maybe what you adapt for yourself, it has been evolved with a systematic arrangement, planning, and then you build that process for the output what you desire for. So when I talk about design, it's a beautiful story what you have built around with you. So here, if you look with this illustration, I have just rightly shown over here that how a person makes a tea. So if you look at these illustrations, they can go move forward or backward depending on every individual, how they design their own tea. Okay. So today, I'll tell you like everything you need to know about design thinking process, which includes like where it comes from, why it's so valuable, and how it's been used. So what is design thinking? So it's a process to solve complex problems. We have a lot of complex problems what we humans face in our day-to-day life, and an approach to solve these problems, an approach which helps you to solve these problems in a methodological and human-centric way. That is where we say it's a design thinking process. So it's for the humans. It is for the betterment of whatever we do in our day-to-day life. And what is the value of this design thinking? So a process which teaches how to innovate and solve problems. It offers proven competitive advantage. It also builds a teamwork and collaboration, because the problems what we have in our day-to-day life, or even whatever product we design to solve those problems, they can't be an output of an individual thinking, and it has to be a collaborative work, because the problems are a general problems, and they can't be like my individual problem to be solved. And that is where design thinking helps a lot. So I'll just put a light on how you go in through this process, how this process can help to solve these problems. So as very nicely described, this design thinking process, it comprises of empathize, then to define, to ideate, prototype, and to test what you have made. So the very first phase of this design thinking process, it is the empathize part. And very importantly, it's not a linear process. The process can be like, you can anytime go forward and backward in this movement, depending on the requirement, what you need to deliver. So firstly, like if you look into the first part, it is about discovering the problem. So the problem, what you discover, and then to design what you want to, the desire, like, and then you deliver what you have come across with your problem statement. So this goes into three phases. Like again, going back into like what we see over here is like the 5 steps of design thinking process been mapped with three phases, like the phase one of discovered, then design, and then to deliver. And especially I've shown with this with the diamond method, because like when we start with a problem, you need to explore it. It expands your vision, it expands your way of seeing things, and then you narrow down with focusing onto the problem so that you can design things. And then when you start designing things again, when you want to deliver, you need to explore a lot with the prototyping or with the ideas, the final deliverances, and then you deliver again by converging onto the final point. So the first phase, what we call is empathy, so it's more about for whom you are solving this problem. It's very important, like, to understand your user, for whom you are solving the problem and what are their needs. So as just to go back, where I was talking about, like, the COVID situation, what we have right now. So there are so many problems which have occurred with respect to this situation. uh, Very commonly what we see is, like, with the hospitals, been flooded with the patients, and you have arise with new set of problems. How you look into this problem, how you can have more and more beds for the patients which are coming out in numbers every day. So it's very important to understand your user. So for that user, you're going to design a bed maybe. So how you look forward to your user whom you are going to solve that problem for. Then what are their needs? Okay, if that user is going to use that bed, what you're going to design, or the space what you're going to design for that user in this COVID situation, you also need to understand what are their needs in that space. It's completely different than the space which was there before, maybe at the hospitals. Probably today the requirements are completely different, and that is how you come across with these new spaces which have come up, like the post-COVID spaces, where the patient has been kept isolated, and for the post, like, coming out from COVID. So that is how you need to build an empathy towards your user. So how you take this as a challenge is very important. So just to again put a light on this, design thinking process is more about solving day-to-day problems what we have, and they come with the situation, or they come with like how you look into things around you. So it's very important how you frame these opportunities. So empathy mapping, I've just over here, I've tried to show how you understand the user, how you can map the empathy for that user for whom you're designing. So what your user says about the problem, what he faces, and then what they do. This comes under the observation part. This is something what you are going to observe about your user when your user is doing a particular task where you see a problem area. And then this is more about your analysis by asking them, what they think about that problem, and understanding their feelings with respect to, being into that situation. And then over here, you try to map, the needs and the insights. This is something which comes out of the box, like where you need to understand their needs out of all this, where you need to understand the insights, what you see into what kind of task they are doing. So generally, this exercise has also been done with respect to by also like building a story, mapping a story. So you try to be with your user and map the entire story, like the entire task, what the user is doing. So as I said, today, if you look into this challenge of COVID, your user being into your user is what your user is uh, the person who is COVID positive, maybe. Okay, and then how you look into your user, when he is into this space, a different space of isolation, so trying to understand your user their challenges, you observe their challenges, what they face, and then you try to look into what they think, talk to them, have conversation, what they really thought of, understand their feelings, their emotions, what they have gone through. And that is how it helps you to build a better problem statement which can help you to design in a better way. So anything whatever you design for the problems shouldn't be a very straightforward, okay, I see this problem and I just design for it. No, take a small steps of such process, go into deep digging into their aspects of the users, like this as an empathy mapping, look into your user, try to map those things, try to look into their emotions, and then try to come up with a new and a better problem statement which will help you to design the thing in a better way. So this is where we encourage stories, because of which we will find surprises which we may discover. Like we may also discover some emotions into it. You might also come across some hidden needs which a common man can't, like if I get a problem statement and I can't directly come up with those hidden needs unless and until I really look into this empathy mapping and maybe some specific topics. So as I was saying, when once you start mapping the story, I'll just go back to the slide where I'll show an example of the story, how I have mapped about the tea. So this is the story of the tea. Like I've mapped with the sketches, I've taken the sketches, how you pour milk into a vessel, then you put tea into it, or you add sugar into it, how you boil it, and the step-by-step process, how you do this entire complete task. So this is story building, you don't miss out any fine step or the detail which is there in the story. So you have everything in front of you. And it doesn't require you to be a good sketcher for this or something. It's just about, putting things on paper so that you don't miss out any of the step when you're designing for, say, you're designing a better tea maybe over here. So coming back to the slide. So once you have the story in front of you, maybe you might see, there are different opportunities which might come across to you. So if you look into this slide, I have placed an old gola making machine over here. And the right side one is the modern day gola making machine, which is in the domestic use, like we have it at our home, we use it at our home. So what's the difference? We need to understand, how this machine has come into picture. There has been an evolution of a product from this machine, which was there maybe at our time. Like when I was a child, I used to see only this machine, but all of a sudden I see this machine has also evolved. But then it has come from where? It has some background from this machine. It has some background from the story which has been told out of the context, the desires, the usability, the function, material, the cost, time consumption. All these are the needs of today. So how you look into all this as a needs, maybe the time consumed in this machine was maybe more, maybe the material being used was more over here, the cost was more, and then the desire, there's a desire of today which has been mapped. So if you rightly map the desire, if you rightly map the things what you need for the time, for today, probably this is what the answer is, this product. So this is exactly where I'm trying to show you, if the designer who has made this gola, domestic gola making machine, surely must have looked into the empathy mapping. What are the needs of today's generation? What are the needs? If you want to have a gola at home, how can I come across even about this thought that I need a gola at home? I need to brainstorm. I need to think about it. I need to understand the user. I need to understand the story of the user. Then maybe somewhere I will be able to map such kind of surprises, such kind of discoveries with emotions, the hidden needs. And then the answer is this. This is out of the hidden needs, of today. So just with respect to what I've shown you right now, I want you guys to look into one task, which is about, I'm sure that you might be having pen and paper with you. So I would like you all to do one small task of empathy mapping, and then finding an opportunity into that and framing a problem into it. What is the problem you see into it? So the task is about looking into a library. You all must have visited a library in your school or college, definitely. And then I just want you to, how you have the story of yourself going into a library and coming out from a library. So there's entire journey of you being in that library, right from entering and to exit from that library. And there are a number of steps what you perform into that library. That might be right from showing your identity card to picking up the book or the finding of the book, and maybe sitting over there and reading of the book. So I want you guys to put this down onto a paper quickly. So the number of steps, maybe I can give you 5 minutes to do this. I hope this is fine, Anushka. I can give them this task. Okay, you guys can put this down onto a paper. Okay, I hope you must have noted down the steps of doing this task of going into a library and coming out from a library. Now I would like to move ahead with like the phase 2 in design thinking process. How a design thinking process helps to design. So like the second phase is more about the brief, what their needs are. Like once you have looked into your user, you really look into the empathy mapping and the opportunity finding. There are a lot of things with you, because you have looked into the process of doing a task, how a person does a task. Like for an example, what you did right now, a person going in a library, you going into a library and exiting out from that library. So there's an entire story what you have mapped. There might be a lot of things which you might note when you do that task. So it's very important to look into those insights, what has happened into that story. So there are insights over there, there are opportunities, there are problems, what you see over there. So how you look into these problems and how you define those problems is very important. Because once you look into those problems, then it is how you start ideating for those problems. So today, as we are going ahead with the session, I am keeping this ahead in front of you, a task of redefining, the library, the space of library, or a task where you design something out over there in the library. So that is where we are leading from the stories to the design, defining the design problem now. So now how do we really define this problem, which is going to help us to ideate? Because directly jumping into ideation won't solve our purpose, because as I said earlier, we might miss out on some of the things. We might address only few of the problems, but it won't turn out to be a sustainable system, a system which is a foolproof system. Even if there is one or small two problems left out over there, they might, like not solve your entire purpose of solving the problem what you're heading for. So let's get into how rightly we can define a brief. So when we define a need, that is a problem statement, we call it a problem statement. And this defined stage is design thinking, the core of design thinking, where the real thinking process happens, where we try to understand the user, we try to understand the needs of the user, and we also understand the insight, and we put all these three in a very systematic way, where we target the user rightly, we address the needs of that user rightly, and even put the insights what we have come across. So very important is that this brief has to be an open-ended, so that we can facilitate many ideas and more solutions into it. Just looking at this picture, maybe if I ask you, what the woman is trying to do, okay, you can note it down onto a paper. Just at the first glance, you can just note down the answer, whatever you feel about this picture. My question is what the woman is trying to do. Then I move to my second question. Even for this, you can note down your answer onto your paper. So what does she needs to reach? Okay. What does she requires to reach, basically? So she wants to maybe reach to those books. So what will she need? What does she needs to do that task? Okay. So onto the left hand side, you can see the obvious answers. What I always have gathered is like, for the first question, what I asked was like what the woman is trying to do. So she's trying to gather information, and she's trying to reach. Okay. And for the second question, what does she requires? Maybe she requires a ladder, she requires a stool, she requires a chair or something. So these are more of those obvious answers. And instead of calling it a ladder, can it be she needs an aid to reach? So yes, Kamlesh has mentioned over here ladder. So that's what the thing is, like, either we rather than closing it to that ladder, we can mention it she needs an aid to reach. So we keep it open-ended. So this is how even we build our brief. When we are talking about building our brief design problem statement, we keep it open-ended so that we can have n number of options. So tomorrow, if you want to design something which can be an aid for this woman to reach to a book, it can be anything. It can be a ladder, it can be a chair, it can be a stool, or it can be a box as well. So it is completely what can be the best solution, what you can design for this woman. So you are not closing this solution to a ladder, because you never know, ladder might not even be an appropriate product for over here, maybe, because that ladder might, it may touch to the rack, or it might have some other problem. But unless and until you test and verify which is the best product, we shouldn't be, closing into the options. We can keep it open-ended. So that is how we look into the brief. Yes, there are a lot of many answers coming to this, like stool might be better options, or it can be a ladder. So chair can be a better option, but that's the thing, the aid is much appropriate. So how do we define this problem statement? As I said, it comprises of these three words, user, the need of the user, and the insight what you find into it. So I define with an example. Say my user is a teenager, and then I define the need. The need is to find a book. Okay, and then the insight what I get is it should be easy to find the information needed. Now, why do I say this? It should be easy to find the information needed. Why this as an insight? Because like you can look over here. It should be easy because always getting a late mark due to time consumed in finding correct information, that can be a problem which can be faced by a teenager. So finding that book in a quick time is something very important, or spending time in that library. How much time do you really want to spend into that library in finding a book rather than really reading that book is very important. So that is one of the insight, where you have the empathy towards the user, looking into your user, that user shouldn't be wasting her or his time into finding a book. So if you rightly look into this problem statement again, it's like the user has been defined as a teenager. That is a specific user which has been defined, and the need to find a book, which is again deep need that's her and not ours. So to find a book was her need, and then the insight what I spoke earlier. So now I want you to write and generate your design brief, your brief with respect to what you have noted earlier onto your paper. I've asked you to note down the story of yourself visiting the library and getting out from the library. And now just put 5 minutes into it, the problems what must have, you faced, what you must have faced while visiting a library. And then probably you can define your problem statement, because this problem statement will help us to maybe design or maybe come with a better thing. So can we do this? Can we all define a problem statement? So you are defining a problem statement for yourself, okay? So the story you know about yourself, you can come up with a problem statement for that from that story. So we can address that problem statement in our next phase to ideate for that. So Aditi says that she has faced a problem of finding the book. So you can even dig deep into it, is that like a particular type of books what you have been finding for and which is a problem area for you? Difficulty in issuing the book. Pallavi says there's a difficulty in issuing the book because I forgot the library card. So this is a problem area what you have come across, and it's a nice problem statement, because this has been a common problem what we see around, library card has been missing, and or probably there's an issue in difficulty in issuing the book at that time. So how you really look into this, and what other insights you can get into this? So definitely you can define those insights as well. So you can look into this slide again, where you need to define your user. You need to define the need. Need is your problem statement, and then the insight into it. So now, like, I would like to go ahead with this, how to ideate, because once you have come up with your brief, it's more important, how you solve this problem, how you really go on for ideation phase. So it's more about creative thinking over here. What is creative thinking and how it is useful for building creative confidence? So, like, this ideation phase is more about creative thinking, and building your confidence to do that creative thinking is a particular task over here. So let's build this creative confidence, because a lot of times we have this pre-assumption with us, like, the designers can do this task of solving the problem. They are more better to do this problem solving task or being creative. But as I said earlier, we all are designers. We have been doing a lot of design stuffs with our things as well. In India, we also have a lot of jugaad things what we do for ourselves. That is what, that is with the experience. We do those things with the experience. We face our problems and we come up with solutions for that, and that is out of a process. Like, as I said, even for the tea, we have designed our own tea. That is about your creative way of building that tea. So looking into this, we'll do a small exercise where you can again quickly take a blank paper and a pencil, where I'll just flash a word in front of you, like over here on the screen, and you can quickly sketch a symbol for that. Okay, not taking more time, just quickly do that. I'll give you 5-10 seconds to quickly draw the symbol for that word, what I'll be showing you over here. Why I'm doing this is, again, to add, is because we take this, like it is more important that we need a sketching practice to be a designer. It's nothing like that. It's more about just our confidence by putting it onto a paper. So I'd just like to go ahead. So the first word is baby. You can sketch a symbol for this word, baby. Whatever comes to your mind, you can sketch for this. If you want to communicate to someone what does this word means, you can just draw a sketch for that.
Can we not have anyone annotating, please, on the screen, because that wouldn't go. Whoever's doing that, please don't do that.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll give you the second word. That is door. So you can just have a small illustration for this, a quick illustration for door. The third word is house. So house is a very common word we have been sketching for, like, since our childhood. Then Mahatma Gandhi. And now the word innovation.
all those who want to share can share it in their groups, so that'll be good to share the exercise and understand. So I know y'all want to share whatever you'll have written on the piece of paper, take a photo and share it on your WhatsApp groups of Sustain and Save. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. So this exercise was just simply to how you communicate your idea to someone. It's completely fine. Even your sketching skills are not good. It's more about whatever we think, whatever we thought of, and if we want to communicate to someone, we should be able to put it on piece of paper, and we are able to. It's just about using that pencil and paper. So creativity is not a rocket science. If you are a good problem solver, you can be creative. That's a very nice say by Professor Stefanus. I always carry this with me. So now what we do is like we have this task of brainstorming and ideation. So the problems what you have come across, you came across with your problem statement, right? As we were discussing earlier. So you can brainstorm and ideate for that. How do you really brainstorm? Is like you can engage more people with you. Right now, I can understand probably you might be alone sitting in front of the screen, but you can take your problem with your family members as well, and they must have also faced the similar kind of a problem. What you have mentioned about going into the library and facing some kind of an issue over there. So for that problem, very same problem, you can have multiple people engaged into, so that you can have more ideas onto it. You can have n number of ideas which can be explored for that problem statement particularly, so that you can get a better output once you evaluate those ideas. So this is about the ideation phase. Uh, Maybe you can do it right now. I can give you 5 minutes. You can do it by yourself right now, but later definitely once the session is done, I would like if you guys can really build up some people around you to do this task. So out of this, like the process, the final phase is about the deliverance. So what do we deliver is the final prototype. Uh, the idea what you have developed, you need to develop a prototype of it. That prototype can be a system, or it can be a product, or it can be say user interface or the behavioral way. It can be anything. So say for an example right now, as you are dealing with the problems which have been faced into library, you can say into that one of the problem what Pallavi had mentioned was about issuing the iCard, So maybe if she comes across the ideas of having those iCards in a digital way, or having those iCard not really as an iCard, or if it is just like my face scanner and the machine over there detects me, or it can be any kind of thing which can be a solution to the problem what she was dealing with. So that solution to be really developed into a mock-up phase is known as a prototyping phase. So where you really make some kind of prototype to try and test that solution, because you might be having after you evaluate multiple solutions, you might have uh, say 2 or 3 solutions which are say better solutions than all those 10, 20 solutions what you have. So for those 3 solutions, how you evaluate is something by making a prototype. You make a prototype, you put it onto that platform, you try with your user who is dealing into that space. So your user is right now you yourself are the user. Okay, So you are going to try and test that prototype. So you try and test all those final three solutions and then evaluate out of that. You evaluate that hands-on prototype so that you can have a final tested model with you, which works in a better way. And this is how the entire innovation happens. Uh, so this is more on to giving you a right process or a right way of doing thing. Rather than say I want to be a person who wants to come up with ideas. I can always come up with n number of ideas and dumping n number of products into the market, but those products might get a success or they might get a failure. Okay, when I say product, it is not just a product, it is also say a system. It can be a product, it can be a system, it can be a digital product as well. But then to get such products, a right way of using it and have a longer life, you really need to try and test before you really set it into the market. And if you follow this entire process, you are already building a good product which can go out over there in market and have its own success right from the start itself. So this was about building and testing your prototype. So just summing up with this entire process to innovate. So innovation is not just an event. It doesn't happen like a eureka moment. Innovation is a process. So IDEO is one of the known US firm in product design and research. You can go onto web and check with IDEO. They have a huge number of innovations and products been designed under the belt. So now coming on to the next topic, what I had mentioned was like, does nature inspires? So how is this relation of nature with the innovation? So definitely that nature inspires. Yes, we know that. And we must have seen this bullet trains, and we might know, many of you might be knowing this, it has been inspired from this bird, kingfisher, But then what really, makes it more interesting is, for the real cause for which it has been, made this way, the design is in this way. It's not just about the form, how it looks, right from the way it looks and the kingfisher looks, but it is more about, how it cuts the air into the tunnel, in Japan, this had happened like, this bullet train was been designed, but when it used to pass through a tunnel, it used to create a lot of noise and vibrations. So like the designers over there, they came up with this innovative idea of taking an inspiration from a kingfisher, the beak of the kingfisher, how it dives into a water without creating a slight impact onto a kingfisher. So this is how they came up with the head of the bullet train, which cuts the air. So having a long beak nose kind of a design helps to cut the air and drift the air, creating no friction and less noise. And it also increased the speed of the train. This is another example of how nature has its own patterns and strategies, and how they inspire for today's sustainable solutions, even in the technical scenario. Their designing has been helped from nature. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is another picture where you can see, how like nature has influenced even not only design world, but then the engineering, the material science, and various fields. Taking inspiration from the wings of the bird, or taking inspiration from the aerodynamism of what you see in the shark, how to cut the water, similar how you cut the air. So there's a tremendous knowledge which is there in the nature, and how we really look into this knowledge is very important. So when we look into this knowledge, it's more important what, why, and how we look into this, for what we look into this knowledge for. So how does this nature really articulate things? So it's more into like, if you want to really try to understand nature, a lot of things which happens in nature, right from the birth of a species to the death of a species. Like the birth of a species and giving birth to its own kind. It's a beautiful process how it happens, and how it survives into this world of nature. So it's more about the evolution which we have been seeing since long, and this evolution has a lot of answers into it. It has a lot of knowledge which is there into it, and this knowledge can be utilized by us to design the things in our day-to-day life. There's so much of tremendous knowledge, because as we saw earlier, why I kept this session more with respect to firstly looking into the design thinking process is the only reason, because today we are trying to apply that thinking process by understanding things, but nature has already done this with respect to the years of experience what it has, the millions of years of experience what it has with itself. And the very first words what I had used into my presentation was adaptation. So adapting to things, as I showed you, the COVID situation, we are trying to adapt with things. And this is where, we see in nature, they have adapted to things according to the situation and the habitat which is there around them. And we also keep on building a lot of new environments around us. And in those environments, how we build the right way of living in it. So that is where, we can take in the knowledge that already nature has of living into these environments, and the way of living into it. They have really different techniques and methods with them, which can really inspire us to, as well as motivate us. And there's a beautiful relation even with respect to the form, time, and structure when we see it in this nature. The evolution of this shell, you can see this, there's a beautiful way of how this structure has evolved, how this form has evolved. So if you can see, there's a proportionate, it increases in proportion, the space between every scale over here increases in proportion. It is not in a random way that, one is small, another is big, again it is small, again it is big, and then big. It is with respect to time. It talks about that time factor, how this structure evolves. So this is one beautiful example about the knowledge which lies into nature. Either it be about the aesthetics, either it be about the strength, either it be about the way of doing it, the mechanism, or the material which is involved into it. So this is another example from the shark scales. Like if you look into, if you zoom on to the body of the shark, you might find such kind of scales, which helps the shark not only to cut the water, but also it keeps the bacteria away. It's an antibacterial surface. So it doesn't let the fungal growth onto its body. And this is what it inspires in today's world, how you design your swimsuits. So all these three examples I purposely took because these are the existing examples. And now I'd just like to again reframe that into, how really this nature helps us into our design thinking process. So if you rightly look into these two hexagons, that is about the defining phase, where you try to find the opportunity. uh, we were looking into how we really discover an opportunity. Nature can really help you to discover an opportunity, or it can even help you to inspire and ideate. So there are two different ways how you can use the information from the nature. Either you are ideating or you're coming up for your solutions. You can take a help from nature, or the nature can straight away give you an answer. I have the knowledge with me, and you can take this knowledge from me. So just like this knowledge, with the shark, I have this knowledge with me how I can keep the bacteria away from myself. So you take this knowledge and you can derive your own product and look into it, where you find an opportunity, where you see or discover an opportunity. And that is where, you being a creative thinker, you can discover an opportunity of designing, say, coming up with, okay, I can use this information in designing a swimsuit, or maybe I can use this information in designing, say, maybe the ships, maybe the bottom part of the ship, where I might get different things which can get attached to the bottom part of the ship. So I can keep things away, not only bacteria, but it can be about something else. So there's a lot of information which is available, and you can take a help of that information to, creatively think in different directions. So definitely, nature gives you the knowledge about, how you can develop systems around you, how you can develop mechanisms or the forms, and even take help from the materials available in nature, as well as the textures. So this is a simple process what I want to put it across to you, where you can look into selecting a species for yourself. So I want you guys to do this small task, of looking into and selecting a different kind of species which can really inspire you to trigger your innovative thinking. How you can really come up with a different thought, how a nature can inspire you to define things around you. So a cage fungi, you can see over here how it has been understood. The entire cycle of this cage fungi has been understood, right from how it takes a birth, like how it grows, and then how it traps a fly over here, and how it finally grows and disappears. So then even the material has been studied onto it. So you can even look into if the material can inspire you. The inspiration can also be the material or the texture onto it to define and design the final product. So if you look over here, one of my student has designed a cage, not a cage called, but it's a space for the dog, or the pet in a house. So a thought line where, looking into this form, how the form has, been talking about a protective feel. The form, if you look at the entire form, it talks about the protective feel, a secured feeling what you get. So a secured feeling has been given to that cat over here, which is sleeping inside this product. So a very nice way of using the knowledge which is available outside in nature. This is another example of studying the honeybee, studying the entire like the functions, the life cycle, the anatomy of the honeybee, and where really I can find that small information which can inspire me to develop a thing around me which is needed. So then this is a honey tester which has been developed. Like if we look into our day-to-day life, this guy actually came up with, there's a need of really coming up with a honey taster, because uh, there is at times impurity been found in honey. Can you detect and find out that impurity, if whether the honey is pure or not? So completely inspired from the way the honeybee sucks in the honey from a flower. So this is a product which has been transformed. Another example of a coconut crab. how a coconut crab, climbs up a coconut tree and, cuts down that coconut and has that food from that coconut. So this is an product which has been inspired from the coconut crab, how you can use it for the purpose of plucking the plants, trimming them down, which also safeguards your hand. So a complete transformation of the knowledge what you have around in nature and how you can use it for your right purpose. This is another species which is a black heron. There's a speciality of this black heron, how it does its task of finding a fish and trapping a fish down. So it creates this umbrella kind of effect to create a shadow so that the fish feels like, okay, this is a safe area where I can move into, and as soon as the fish comes under this shadow area, it catches that fish. So it's a nice way of intelligence what this bird has been using. And this intelligence, it doesn't comes overnight. It comes with experience they have developed it. So that is about the evolution I was talking about. And just transforming that, the thought of trapping something, enclosing something. So how do you enclose something for a betterment of our things? So if we look into how people have been trekking into the hill areas or the mountain areas, what if you have such kind of shelters which are roadside or even in the trek region, where you have an enclosed area. And if you look into this beak like red thing over here, it is a thermal transmitter, basically to create a warm air inside that shelter so that people can rest while trekking over there. So this is just a thought. I'm putting these thoughts in front of you because this is more about triggering your thoughts, how to trigger our thoughts, how to think in different directions, how we can come up with better solutions. And there are a lot many needs in our day-to-day life because we humans have been evolving so much with so many things to do, day to day in our life, we come up with doing different things. This is another example where you see a butterfly over here and the eggs of the butterfly. If you note this eggs of the butterfly, they are not just an normal eggs, they are also a supplement of food for those young ones which are there inside. So once these young ones, they start coming out from this, they have been left alone and they just feed onto this eggs. So the nutrients are completely been provided with this shell which is there. So it's a source of food for them. And how can we use this knowledge? How we can take this knowledge ahead? So this is a small, exercise where we did like how a plant can use this outer pot as a source of food for itself, as a source of nutrient for itself. And after a point of time, this will just vanish off and this plant will actually start getting itself adapting into the ground itself. So it's a way of packaging, we see today when we go to this buying a plant, we see those saplings have been served into those black polythene, which is of like you just need to throw that black polythene. It's almost done, Ankita. Yes. So this is just a substitute for that. Rather than using those black polythenes, we can use such kind of methods of adapting ourselves with new products. This is another product. It's more inspired from the daddy long leg spider. So how you transform that into a beautiful planter. So a hanging planter. So it also gives the direction for the creepers. Then again, a chair been designed out of it. So And this is one of like the octopus, how it can inspire you to design headphones. This octopus actually folds itself. It's a coconut octopus. It wraps around itself. So taking inspiration from its mechanism to design a headphone which can become a very compact one. So looking into our daily needs and getting inspired from nature to design for those needs. So with this, I come to end of this session. I just want, this is my final slide. This is just a small story, what I want to keep it with you, and you can maybe think of, what you can do with this inspiration. This is a jellyfish. It's called an immortal jellyfish. What this jellyfish does is like, it has not yet been noted that it has died. So it has been kept under observation since long, and there's a understanding about this jellyfish that it grows and it again goes back into its small age, like at the start age, and again it grows back to the adult age. So it has this cycle of not dying. It just keeps on growing big, and again it becomes smaller. Again it grows big and it becomes smaller. So, and it has like, if anyone scares it, it again goes back into a childhood age. So it's a beautiful species. You can Google on net about immortal jellyfish. You can come across this. I want you all to think about this small story, and can you think of how you can come up with some like thought where it can help us in our day-to-day life. Okay, guys. Thank you from my side. I hope you must have like the session. It might have triggered your thoughts as well. So that's it from my side. Yeah,
Thank you
Anushka.
so much, sir. And if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the chat box. Anyone?
Thank you, Christina.
Guys, you can put questions in the chat box.